I'm always like tip of the tongue, the teeth, the lips.
Right now.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into a brand new episode of Chat 10 Sports. I'm here, Trey Wynn and Chase Green, or wherever he is. I always got to figure out where I'm pointing at. But we're live, baby. We are here talking all things Tennessee sports and everything in between. But, folks, we are going to hit this live button. A lot to discuss with the Titans. We're going to touch basically all things NFL, hit the Super Bowl. We'll tell you why we really like the Super Bowl, because a lot of reasons, but we'll tell you our favorite things. So stick around. What's up, everybody? Welcome into a brand new episode of Chat 10 Sports, where we're talking all things Tennessee sports and everything in between. If you're watching us from Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, we do invite you to chat with us live, so make sure and keep that thing live. And if you're listening to us, be sure to follow, subscribe, rate the show, and if you're watching on YouTube, hit the bell for notifications. But folks, with that said, without further ado, let's jump into a brand new episode of Chat 10 Sports. That is correct, my friends. I'm actually here on my phone, Chase, and guess what I can do? I can share our show on my social media. So everybody that's watching right now or listening, in case you're on an audio podcast, you know, if you're liking, sharing the show is one of the most generous things you can do. So as I'm doing that right now, if you're watching on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, we're all over the world. We're on our YouTube as well. We want to make sure, you know, if you want to chat with us, I know it's already lighting up here, excuse me. Steven Snyder's coming in, always right on time, sir.
Pleasure, Steven.
Appreciate it. But chat it up with us. We're going to be talking a bunch. I know my mentions today on Twitter were on fire because
you're hot.
I have a hot topic, but I have an opinion. I have a legit opinion. We'll talk about it because we're going to talk roster. Next week, we're going to talk all things like positional groups, so stick around for that. But tonight will be the Titans rebuild. But we're going to talk about money-wise, position. It is the talk of the town. I have my take. You haven't heard Chase's take yet, so we'll break that thing down. But Chase, have you been watching this, The Last of Us?
I sure have, my friend.
Okay.
All 3 episodes as fast as I possibly can.
Here's what I'm excited about, because it strikes 2 things for me. One, sometimes they put things out all at once, right? You know, all 10 episodes, and you binge the crap out of it. I kind of like the week-to-week release. Not to completely derail our sports talk, but this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
I don't know if it matters to you, but first off, like the story, everything that's happening is just absolute butter. I'm enjoying it. I'm on the edge of my seat because I went in thinking, and I don't want to give away a ton of spoilers for anybody who hasn't heard it, watched it, seen it, played the video game that's being pulled from. But it's not your same old zombie apocalypse story, right? So I know in the coming weeks, maybe we'll incorporate more into our show in case you're watching, in case you're listening and watching the show, in case you're also watching HBO's production, The Last of Us. You can download with us, but I'm loving it. Any thoughts that anything that sticks out in particular that makes you like it? Because it's not your average zombie show.
No. It does have its moments of like, whoa, zombie factor on 1,000. Like, second episode, you get a lot, but even through that still, as we were talking about earlier, Trey, it's something my girlfriend's is kind of interested in because all of her friends are being like, whoa, this is a fantastic show. Storyline, blanking. What's the main actor's name?
Pedro Pascal.
Yes. And Pedro, he's nailed every show he's been in. I mean, you're talking Game of Thrones, Mandalorian, and now this.
This is the one.
So now this show and the storyline, especially the 3rd episode, has taken this thing to the next level. Did you ever play the video game?
No. And that's the thing. I've played several other zombie apocalyptic, post-apocalyptic, like I played video games like that. DayZ, in case anyone's played DayZ, love it. But we're here on our conversation about The Last of Us. But no, I'm going in completely blank. And same. I know the last episode branched off from the storyline or whatever it was, everything happening there. So not to dwell too much on The Last of Us. I know Craig Story's coming here on Facebook saying The Last of Us is what The Walking Dead should have been. I agree. I know we're still really early in. It's very much obviously like, this is a flash in the pan area as far as we're 3 episodes. I have some people that watch 3 episodes of shows and say that it's trash or make their full decision on it. But I know this last episode's being, talked about as far as one of the best TV show productions, ever kind of thing. Yeah. So all that to say, I'm loving it. But here's the thing: crafting a good show. I know James Gunn came out with some stuff as well as far as DC Universe. He's having to rebuild. So to segue into our Titans conversation,
Yes.
Rand Carthon and Mike Vrabel are going to have to be rebuilding their own brand, obviously, as the Tennessee Titans. I know a lot of us have had these are very similar conversations around the community right now. So I don't want to beat the dead horse of anything's like, groundbreaking news that we all think Bud Dupree, Zach Cunningham, Taylor Lewan, and who am I blanking on? Robert Woods should all be off this roster and save millions of dollars.
Millions.
Chase, do you have any objection or any other thoughts on those four people?
Not really. Like, you just can't. You can't. I mean, the Lewan thing just hurts, like, as a fan. But you can't keep him, man. Like, he's just too much money for somebody that's going to be injury riddled his whole life. And good on him. Go be successful elsewhere or do your podcast. And you're going to be heavily successful either way you go, probably. He'll make up for it. And he might be a guy that we look back on who probably got pissed off when he goes to another team, may become an all-pro again because he's finally healthy for a whole year. And the Titans fans are going to get mad about it. We know this song and dance. We're going to see it. He might have like 2 good weeks. That's it. Both lines, wide receivers that came from the Titans, like kind of the same thing. It's like, well, we should have kept, one of them. It's like, well, do we really watch them the whole season kind of thing?
Right.
And that might be Lewan to a higher extent for some other team, but you can't keep him for money wise if you're going to try to keep the hope alive this year. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, like, I know you and Craig talked about it a little bit too on Twitter today. Is it like a 1-year gap and then you try to rebuild, or is it a 1-year gap, hard rebuild?
Well, I think if they were to lean into a rebuild, I think it would be this year of just like trade everybody, cut everybody, free up as much cap, because 2023, that's where they're currently minus $23 million and some change against the cap or under the cap, or I guess over the cap, or whatever you want to say it is. But in this week, just kind of looking into it and talking about it, like there's a certain area within a usage of the entirety of your 200 just got raised for this upcoming season to 224 million. But it has to be within so many, I think like 90, 95 percentile of usage. Otherwise, whatever's not being used goes to players, and there's potential other like, penalties, fines, all that kind of stuff. But for the Titans, I feel like the full rebuild, they could go full on. And I think we see announcements of, Ryan Tannehill getting cut or traded or whatever it is. That's where the debatable guys, because on our Substack for Chat 10 Sports, in case you have not checked us out, go to our Substack. Let me make sure I got it correct here. It's chat10sports.substack.com. We are basically migrating from our website to that platform for all articles, and you can check it out there. It's way more convenient for us, but it also has the ability without any hassle of putting it directly into your email inbox. But I basically broke down just my thoughts. I know for guys that are talking about restructures, Kevin Byard and Harold Landry. I don't think Harold Landry is realistically there. You can read the details about it. Kevin Byard's a guy that wants to be a Titan for life and retire. So I think you have some room to say, Kevin, look, we have the years to spread this out, the rest of his contract. Or I think for 2023, he's taken on $19.4 million for his whole salary cap hit this year. Neither one of us want to see him traded or moved or anything like that. That's a hard one. What do you think?
Yeah, he's the one. Lewan's hard as a fan because of what he's built through a podcast and personality, but Byard's the guy that's like shown up and been our all-pro year in and year out, it feels like. And the mayor of Murfreesboro part of it. Like, he's done it through more play. Don't get me wrong, the one was great when he was great. But Byard's the one that's been like through it and has come up and been probably our best overall player year in and year out besides Henry. And it's, I guess, for a longer tenure, don't get me wrong. I love what Jeff's doing, and we've got guys that'll show up and show out every once in a while, but and for a year or so, and Jeff's going to be that guy for a long term. But Byard is the guy that's been there for a while and has been just stable. Mentioned article. He is 32 and 30, like what, 32, 33?
He will be, I believe he's be 33 or no, I'm sorry.
At
He's
the end of his
going to be 31.
Okay, so he'll at the end of his contract is what you're okay, that's what it was.
Yes.
Yeah. So in that 2025, 2026 years.
He'll be 32 and 33. So right now it puts him at 31, 30 years old right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, realistically for me, like I see them restructuring before they obviously would have to go move. But like, I feel like Kevin is
he's somebody, I mean, it feels like you got to keep him in the 95 percentile, and he's somebody you want to keep.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, but even if they spread that money out and it's not a full $19 million hit, I think Spotrac had it where it's like, they could save 6.5 or 6.3 million in 2023. But all that to say, I mean, it is a interesting thing because there's some of the obvious players that they could be parting from, right? I mean, they're like I said, Zach Cunningham is a guy that's I don't know how. I mean, this is where J-Rob basically backloaded every contract that he made, and all those, it's time to pay the piper kind of thing. You've spread through restructures and everything that you can so far back through so many years. But Kevin Byard's that guy where I could see the restructure. Like I said, Harold Landry, not so much, but are they going to keep Tannehill? That I think that there's several options, obviously, with a lot of quarterbacks on the market and talking about moving around. There's the potential of them going up in the draft this year, or they're waiting for our guy Drake May for next year. But how do you see it playing out? What do you want them to do? And then how do you think it's going to happen?
I don't know. I want to see another year Drake. I like Drake. I'm a huge Carolina fan. But I don't know if you need to sell your soul for Drake May just yet. He is a guy that could be. He's awesome. But he's losing two really good NFL wide receivers this year, and Antoine Green and Josh Downs. That offensive line's really bad in Carolina. So he could have another year where he gets the shit kicked out of him. And that could wind up being pretty bad. So I don't want to sell the farm. I think Drake's very talented. I will say that. I do think he'll wind up being a number one, number two guy. I mean, Caleb's awesome out there at USC. He'll be up there. They've got a lot of talent coming out in the quarterback room next year. But as you mentioned, I don't know what you're gonna do. Like Tannehill, like just might be who you have to go with
for this year and next year. You're saying
possibly. Like I mean, like the way
if they have to, sure. I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing for the sake of like what you're getting comparatively speaking in the league. Because now that Tom Brady's off the table, we all know Aaron Rodgers is not coming here. It's either the Jets or the Raiders, and I think, I mean, it's almost becoming just like Brett Favre. It's ironic, how the careers have kind of paralleled each other in links. But now it's like, dude, every offseason we got to talk about you, and we got to talk about if you're going to retire, what you want to do. But the dude's a little bit drama, I don't know. Maybe
he's perfect for New York.
But it's so strange. But it's also weird and perfect for the Raiders in Las Vegas, dude. Like,
did you see the Davante Adams tweet?
No.
Oh, they said, so I guess he replied back to somebody and they were like, where's Aaron moving to? And then Davante Adams quote tweeted and said, in my neighborhood.
I mean, he wants it. And tonight I was watching the Pro Bowl games. Derek Carr's lighting up Twitter right now because after he lit it up in I think a round of accuracy, trying to make long bombs and hitting points, he killed it. Basically won for the AFC. It put up 31 points. But Ryan Clark interviewed him saying, of all the times you played in Las Vegas, was that the hottest time? He said, I don't know, but that's probably why I'm going to be moved on from here next year. And I'm probably misquoting some of that. But kind of just drop the mic. So that's changing.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody in Tennessee logically, I'll say in a nice way, wants Derek Carr as our quarterback.
No, there's a lot of name chasers in this fan base.
Well, it's Madden, dude. I swear Madden is more of a like a hindrance and a problem than it is, because I swear fans think they're all of a sudden, and maybe I'm guilty of it at times with these, let's think out loud kind of salary cap conversations, but it's like, let's be realistic. Let's not just jump off the end and just, I don't know. People think that right now Derrick Henry could get you a first or second round pick.
No way.
The mock draft simulator said I could, and it's like, oh man, come on, bud.
Yeah, dude.
Go back to school, kid.
We got, what do we get for DeMarco? 5th round pick?
Yeah, 4th or
Give
5th, I think it was.
4th or 5th. 2 years left on a
we
contract.
We swapped 4th round picks positions with the Eagles at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I mean, that was a 2 year, there was 2 or 3 years left on his contract, nowhere near the money. I don't know, man. That is, we are not going to get a whole lot for Derek. That's unfortunate. And that's just the way the market works.
You want to talk about Derrick Henry?
Yeah, might as well.
I've been talking about Derrick Henry a lot today.
Dude, you've been fired about Derek. You and Craig both. I know Craig's been waiting for this one.
Well, I'm glad Craig's here. I know. I just want to address it because I think off the top, like my issue was, just for all context, because not that it matters, but the talk of Titans Twitter today was a post where they have top fives from the NFLPA, where every player in their position is said, here's your top players. You can pick one. You can't pick your teammate, and you pick a person of the opposing group. So I'm assuming running backs are picking linebackers, right? And they're picking, and linebackers are picking running backs.
I was wondering.
So that's the context of this survey or whatever it is they're getting. Derrick Henry didn't make the top 5 for running backs for whatever reason it was. And Titans fans, and I get it, I think it's telling that all of his peers are out here saying you're not going to get a top 5 spot in the NFL, even though numbers, all that, everything's there for him to be in that conversation. And obviously tonight he's at the Pro Bowl. Mm-hmm. But all that to say, Titans fans have this idea that Derrick Henry is literally the greatest thing in the NFL. And this is some outlandish BS. I get it. But the homerism, the idea that someone like Christian McCaffrey, someone like Saquon Barkley, someone like a Josh Jacobs is even in the conversation of Derrick Henry is appalling. And then to think like someone's going to just cough up a second round pick for Derrick Henry. It's like, well, he's the greatest. He's like, well, he's also carrying what a $16 million contract. Like that's Christian McCaffrey money where he literally can do everything. Derrick Henry is a one-trick pony. I love him. I have sat here and Chase, we went and saw him live in person, not to talk about the other several hundred times that we've sat together in a bar and watched his team play. And it's like, we love it. It's great. But for me today, in this day and age in the NFL, just for the record, I would pick someone else besides Derrick Henry. I think that's a pretty blatant, obvious choice. And Chase is over here wearing his Titan shirt. I have a Tennessee State flag. I mean, we're fans through and through. We can all say this stuff. But the reality of it for me is I think it's laughable that Titans fans are just so appalled. It's like, we have a good running back. I love it. I get it. It's that time of the year where it's like we don't have much to talk about. So we're picking over the small stuff. But just to end the rant about it, it's like Derrick Henry is great. Would I cut him or move him this season? Yes. Because I think it's time for this offense to get faster, like Mike Vrabel's saying in pressers. And I don't see an offense that you can quickly move to, right? Where you can take Derrick Henry and just all of a sudden make these RPOs and these fast-moving new age offenses where they're passing first and not relying on your bell cow to have 30 touches a game where you have to do X and have to do Y. It's like we have to, and then to think like there's a reason we don't have any talent on the offensive side of the ball for several reasons. But one of those is the fact that we are one of the few teams paying a running back this much. And I know like we're going to move all those monies one day into a quarterback, but it's like, I want to be a part of those 4 or 5 teams right now. Like we'll talk about Super Bowl in a little bit. And again, we'll break it down next weekend, talking about positional wise, how the Titans can get more like these Super Bowl teams. Because right now there's a pretty big gap. But Chase, I mean, do you think this thing is like completely beyond me where it's like I just think I'm in the left, or you think I'm in the left field with this Derrick Henry take? Because again, like I think today there was a lot of misconstrued information. I think Derrick Henry is a top 5 back in the NFL right now. For me personally, I would move on because I don't think he's worth $16 million today. I don't think he's come back to form from his injury from the Jones fracture. So, like, there's a lot of variables there, but just people in my mentions talking about, like, just ridiculous crap. But, Chase, straight up, tell me what you think.
It's hard because you have seen what a Derrick Henry led offense looks like, and it's gotten you to an AFC championship.
Mm-hmm.
But once again, I think that's as far as you're going to go. And that was at peak Derrick Henry powers.
Good offensive line, good offensive coordinator. You have good receivers. Defense. Yeah. Yep.
Unless they make just ungodly first-year GM moves and they find some way to make an offensive line just work to magical proportions,
mm-hmm.
you can't have him. And he's going to regress. He is a 31-year-old running back. Or is he that old?
He's getting up there. And I'll pull it up right here.
Yeah, pull up an age. I'm just making up numbers. I'm old now, so but he is a guy that's an aging running back on a last year of a contract. You're not going to get a whole lot back for him. So it's not going to look, you're not going to win that. You're not going to win that trade in the short term. You won't.
Derrick Henry right now is 29 years and 36 days old.
Okay. So he's 29, older for running back.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? He's a freak. I'm going to say this. I'll add this adjective here. He's a freak. And he is going to be, I don't know if he's going to be LeBron James where he stays healthy at an ungodly rate throughout his entire career. And he's going to be performing at 37, 38 years old like we wouldn't believe.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see that for running back. But you have to cater your entire offense around a running back like Derrick. And it's like you mentioned, it's not fast. It has to be more brute force. And I just don't know if you're going to win that way, man.
Okay, let me jump in right there because X's and O's with what you're talking about right there is one side of the ball. The other side of the ball is the financial side of it, where the quarterback market is forcing a guy like Ryan Tannehill now to be worth $36 million a year for this upcoming year.
And things are only going to get higher.
Right. But the thing is, your talent, you can't keep A.J. Brown because you can't pay him $25 million a year, which is what he wanted. And now he's gotten it. But you can't keep other talent around. You can't replace Roger Saffold properly with Aaron Brewer or whomever they're trying to shove over there and say, let's hope with Keith Carter and this stuff it's going to work out.
Ugh.
Right. I mean, here's the thing, too. Like, mind you, like all these other pre-existing, we just fired our OC, we just fired our O-line coach, we just fired our GM, all these things happening. So it's like part of me, too, is like Derrick Henry doesn't deserve this. Put him in a situation, and if a team like the Buffalo Bills came knocking and asking for Derrick Henry, you'd charge them the Buffalo Bills price and jack it up a little bit for them. But if he was on that team right now, big old Gabe Davis and I mean, come on, big Stephon Diggs out there blocking for Derrick Henry, like that sounds lethal. But I mean, again, like that's a hypothetical situation where I think for both parties, I'll be shocked if they move him, but I could see a scenario where the Titans are like, let's just move on and move into the evolution of this game where the copycat league just continues moving. But like, I agree with what you just said. Like the Titans are going to go to the AFC Championship on a prayer and a whim, like we were doing. Like let's let all things line up, go to the right way for the Titans on the road at Kansas City, and they just shit the bed.
Yeah. And I want to touch on Craig's point here. Mm-hmm. They brought in a San Francisco guy whose whole team was revolved around running in the offensive line. You have to find a guy like Shanahan to do that. That's not who Vrabel is. If we go out and find that OC, that guy, it could change everything. Because you look at San Francisco, it was all because of the offensive line and really good draft picks. You're talking Elijah Mitchell, you're talking Wilson, all these cats that just ran through. And then there's what, 2 guys in Miami now that are and then who's the other guy they had last year that was so good? They had 3 or 4 running backs. They just pile them in. Now they get
Matt
McCaffrey,
Moses or whatnot.
Breda, and all those guys. And they have just made those guys work over and over and over every time somebody gets injured. And that's another part of it. Is the Titans don't have that depth. Past Derek, it's tougher. It's tougher. I don't know if Hassan Haskins is quite it. Do you think so?
I mean, I'll say this about Hassan Haskins.
Good point, Greg.
The last game that we really saw him, he was running downhill pretty hard. And it's like, hey, if this guy got some touches in the right scenarios, he could have, a good lineup. I'll say this about the San Francisco, like Craig's comment on Facebook. Well, they brought in the San Fran guy who built the whole running game and running the ball and the great O-line. It's going to be very difficult to replicate that, not just with Shanahan, but with guys like Deebo Samuel, guys like Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, man. Thinking of money matters. If you take that $16 million and put that at a receiver or 2, that would help the Titans a ton right now. And I think you would have a lot easier time finding a running back. Think of what Tony Pollard's going to go for this offseason with his ankle injury or whatnot.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that we're not trying to stay around the area of finding old people or aged anybody with injuries and all that kind of stuff.
Get me out of that freaking market.
But that's the thing. The positions that you should be going after for these cheaper, riskier deals are not left tackle and defensive end and cornerback, right? And that's like, do it on the running back stuff or a tight end. That's like, hey, this guy could be a freak, but he has a need. It's like, let's just the cheaper positions. Let's go after those with the riskier moves. But the thing is, like, I think it's going to have to evolve away from a person like Derrick Henry. The way he's built, he does not move and shift like a Christian McCaffrey, like a Saquon, like a Tony Pollard, even like a Zeke. They're kind of similar in the sense of having those wider hips or whatnot, but like it doesn't move like that. And I'm not trying to just take a shit all over Derrick Henry. It's just the fact that it's like, and again, they haven't hired their guy yet for OC. So it's like we could be moving, hey, let's do what Arthur Smith did and let's give it one last good push until we have all this money freed up and then go. But at the end of the day, it's like it doesn't seem like they want to take any step back with the moving on from John Robinson, the cleaning out of the offensive staff with the OC and the O-line coach. And now they're still floating out there for a secondary coach because Chris Harris is, being pulled over and intrigued by the position with the Niners. But Chase, like, all that to say, I think for offense, Derrick Henry, I know we're all trying to avoid the rebuild, but I still think the realistic outlook for next season at this point in time is doing slightly better than what you did this year and make the playoffs and somehow win the AFC South Championship because the division is changing while all this other crap that we're talking about is happening.
And a little bit opposed to that point is what sucks is unless Jacksonville kind of falls apart, they're on the up. And even, I'll say 6 weeks ago, Jacksonville's winning. They're not who they were at the end of the season. They didn't make they weren't making the playoffs. The Titans are still like, we're still going to win this thing, right? And then 5 or 6 weeks ago, you're thinking, well, if we just get a little bit better, we'll win the division again next year. But now you don't have the reins. You're not the best team in the AFC right now. And I don't believe the Colts are going to be much better. They're probably going to hire what's his face. So
Jeff Saturday, they're on the third round right now of interviews, by the way.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. Saw you retweeted that. And Texans, DeMarco's great, but they got a long ways to go. They can still beat us.
Well, I'll say this: him and Nick Caserio together, their GM, that's from the Patriots, like.
Give it time. It's not going to be long.
Yeah.
Like your window's shrinking. So like it's for what I was getting back to the point of, I guess, is
Mm-hmm.
it's not in your control anymore. It's not going to be a relatively easier path. Like you have a real opposition now. A lot less than what you thought you did last year. Like look at the beginning of the season. We weren't thinking Jacksonville was going to be who they were. I mean, the team was 2-6. At the middle of the season, you're like, they're going to be okay. Maybe they'll win some games toward the end of the year, and they might look flashy at times. Trevor's not that great. He's okay. And then now we're like, oh, Trevor can play. So I don't know. It's one of those things to me where you can start the rebuild now, and it wouldn't be the worst idea.
But I don't think they have to go like full on rebuild where you're losing 10, 12 games.
They don't have the moves, do you think? Like even if you trade your best players, you're not getting much out of them.
Well, I mean, I think the biggest problem right now for the Titans is the salary cap. And you got 4 players that are just gimmies. Like, and you can nitpick at other players saying like, hey, if Ben Jones does want to come back, do you want to move on and upgrade center before he retires or whatever? Because you could save some money, but I think it's like you'll end up paying him $4 or $5 million. It's like, will you find a guy better than him at that price? But all that to say, I mean, it's a strange place to be in because the Titans right now, like someone was making a point on Twitter today of how Henry's gotten all these yards while these other backs have been up against, they've been stacked boxes as well. And I'm like, the Titans have skated through the AFC South for half of their season, half of their scheduled opponents.
Yeah.
Like there's their defenses, and they still, here's the thing, dude, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. They still couldn't score over 27 points at most the whole season.
Yeah, our big performance was against a mediocre, subpar, if you want to call them that, Green Bay Packers team that was like this huge thing.
But see, that's I feel like people are at a point right now where they think because of how injured the team was, like it's a weird balance of like how bad were we last year and where do we stand right now, right? And it's I don't know. I think some people think that we're better off than we are. But again, there's some transitions, there's some changes happening in the Tennessee Titans organization. It's just a matter of how deep they want to go into it. So like, I don't know. I'm at a point. I want to reply back here to Craig's stories just to kind of talk about how and who do they go with and where. But he says going to have to draft left tackle. That's just the truth. Good ones cost too much.
True.
And this is the thing. I think this is the year, ideally, and we've seen a lot of mock drafts right now saying Paris Johnson Jr. from Ohio State at number 11, which I'm like, Lord, I'll do anything.
I don't know if he falls that far, but yeah.
But the thing is, there's other guys that say, and then we saw this with, when Laramie Tunsil fell and we were going for Jack Conklin. We scooped up Jack Conklin while we were all praying as fans for them to let Tunsil fall to their pick, right? Like we were praying for that.
Yeah.
Not sure if we want to talk about how that went now because Laramie Tunsil got traded for multiple picks, like draft picks, and now he's still starting for the Texans. But all that to say, I mean, I think you have to – it's either Peter Skoronski or Paris Johnson Jr. for me.
Yeah, you got to – and Craig mentioned they're too expensive. Yeah, because you can't keep Taylor. And Paris would be – He's a monster. Dude, he's a fucking monster, dude. Dude, that guy's that would be a very special pick. And that's another part. He would be a lot of casuals would be like ready for draft night and they're gonna get his measurables. And they're like, oh yeah, we got the guy.
No, his film is, I mean, talking about putting his hands and his helmet on a guy and driving his legs into the ground. Like he's just one of those assholes that does it like 10, 15 yards behind the play. And he's still like, jumping on guys and headbutting and doing all that kind of stuff. He's a mauler. And that's one thing the Titans, I know Lawan early on in some of those games, he was up in people's faces doing stuff like that. But I'm talking like, I want to see a Vrabel offense. You know how this team embodies the head coach? It's like, I want a mean and a tough offensive line. And I'm like, please, somehow this will never happen. But if Mike Munchak came back to this team, oh my God, it
I
would be
saw that floating around. I was actually gonna bring that up. I saw that floating around a little
that
bit.
would be so awesome. But again, like I don't know if it's the OC and he already has his offensive line guy picked out, or if he, I'm all about the scheme. If we're taking the scheme, well, that's the thing, Craig. Craig says on Facebook, and you want to trade Henry? LOL. We were
It's a weird factor you have to put into that because like, if you want to keep the Vrabel
thank you.
part, you do kind of want to keep Henry.
But I
But
think at the end of the day, run heavy nowadays in the NFL is like 52% running versus 48% passing. So it's not like you're going to just abandon the idea of a stout, nasty offensive line. And I get what you're saying, Craig. Like we're being a little facetious here because we were going back and forth. Like we were talking, we were both on the same page. If Derrick Henry gets dealt or traded, it will be a cap casualty 4th, 5th, 6th round pick where you're just letting all that money go or agreeing to pay a portion of his salary just to get whatever you can back. Because $16.3 million is what that is. And I'm telling you, I don't know. I don't dislike the guy. I'm not a hater of Derrick Henry, yada, yada, yada. I just think if this football team wants to go in a different direction, it's going to happen quick.
yeah, I'm very interested to see what Rand wants to do because like I feel like logically, financially, you almost have to stay the course a little bit right now. Like you got to, you want to keep Henry for a year. You want to, but then there's a part of it where if you're ready to move on, you're just because I guess I'm like 60-40, 60 being let's go ahead and start the rebuild because I don't know if we're beating Jacksonville again next year. And we ain't getting the playoffs, no record. Let's be honest. Now, we do have from what it looks like, the schedule is going to be a low distance miles traveled schedule too.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of chances. Like, I mean, you might be able to, but
so you're saying there's a chance.
You're saying there's a chance, but also I'm to the effect of there needs to be a heavy change if you want to win a Super Bowl. And you can still have a run heavy offense. Like San Francisco's like smack you in the mouth, but they're still athletic. Like you watch Elijah Mitchell, you watch, obviously finding a Deebo Samuel is really hard. I know this, but adding somebody like that, adding somebody that's super effective, maybe in a two-way situation, or just having 2 or 3 guys that are electric and you can use them, you smart, you have to find the right OC.
Yeah.
Run heavy, it looks a little different now. Derek is not a dinosaur because he is superhuman. And he might be another one, as I mentioned about Lawan, who might go somewhere and help somebody else. But if you're having to solely focus around him, I just don't think you're going to make it with the lack of general overall talent around him right now. And you can't get that because you're capped.
Yeah. And I think of something too, like Isaiah Pacheco has taught me that Tyreek Hill is wonderful, but there are guys out there that can do the similar, type of things that he can do in the sense of like, reverses and having the speed to get outside and just burning guys. And I think the Titans, if they're able, they're not going to find the clone of Deebo like we're talking about. But that offense in itself is a freak of nature as far as the talent, the roster. That's years of like,
oh yeah,
crafting and finessing and all that kind of stuff. But even like Rand Carthon's responsible for drafting George Kittle, Brock Purdy. Like who can guess that stuff? I love it. I hope we can see the same things happen here. But at the end of the day, it's like it's going to be very hard to bottle that type of lightning. But at the same time, if you're trying to move into a different direction, you can't compromise your future today by not making that move right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, does that make sense? Of like,
yeah,
the longer that they wait, the further down the road they're going to end up with a running back heavy offense, and you have to have him hit 30 touches still. And I'd rather that be now and sooner than later than 3 years up the road or 2 years up the road. And one last thing about this, I know we got to move on here because NFL stuff, but good trades are when you move players that still have value. And Henry does have value. He has a heavy contract. That's the sour part about it. So you're not going to get the top 5, top 3 rounds or whatnot. I would say at best we can get a 4th if they wanted to move on from Henry. Obviously, highly unlikely. But we got to talk about it because everyone else is talking about other things, and it's like, look, dude, let's talk about the hard parts of this. Because I think Lewan, we don't have to sit here and wonder. Like, he is as good as gone.
Dupree, good as gone.
Yeah, all those guys are good as gone. But like we're saying too, a good free agency class, a good draft class, this team could be competitive at the top of the AFC South. I don't think the Jags are as great as we think because our replacements lineup team went out there and almost beat them in week 17 or week 18 or whatnot. But anyways, like all that to say, glad we addressed the Henry stuff. I know next week we're going to talk full breakdown and full position by position because they do have their stuff, worked out for them this week too. Obviously, senior week down in Mobile, Alabama. A lot of Vols down there. I know. What do you think?
A lot of Vols.
Yeah. What do you thought?
It sounds like Byron Young's having a really good week. It's good to see Hooker back on 2 feet.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. I mean, Senior Bowl's made some people some money. Like, I mean, Juwan Jennings go back to San Francisco, made himself some money that week. And I think that Rand's down there doing his thing. There's a lot of evaluation that can be picked up this week. You're gonna find some guys down there at least to look at. So good week to see older guys going against older guys, and I mean older guys because these seniors are like 26 now. We're getting like COVID year boys. These guys are getting old.
Yeah, Craig Story coming in again saying I was happy to hear the Titans were one of the first teams to talk to Hendon Hooker.
Yep.
Just to splinter off into the reality that may be one day.
And that's interesting to find out too. Like, what if like let's do fun. Let's do quick fun dream scenario.
This is my
Let's say Titans get a Hooker and it's 3rd round again. Yeah, that's what I'm guessing. 2nd, 3rd round. They really like him. You're gonna like him. He's guy's gonna interview well. You see the accolades. You see the way his teammates love him. How he handles being a teammate. Like that's the stuff Vrabel's just gonna eat up. He's got a little bit of dog in him. What if he works out? Like, what if you're getting into camp? You're like, oh, this is fun. Like I see the way he throws the football. That's going to cause some intrigue.
It makes me think right now, if he wasn't hurt, what would his projection be like right now? I think 2nd, if I'm being conservative in that. And I think some teams could reach late 1st.
Let's say
he was healthy.
I'll give you this, and you can decide. Let's say you go to after South Carolina. So he's got that loss on his resume. Looks bad. Doesn't tear the MCL. Let's say he goes on and they score 56 against Vandy, but he puts up the big stats. Like, let's say the running backs took over that game. They both had like 150, 200 plus. Who knows? They just tore Vandy apart. But let's say Hooker goes out and throws an effortless 3 touchdowns, runs for 1. And then he puts up an MVP status in the Orange Bowl. Like, just try to like imagine like where his stock was at that point. Yeah. I mean, you're sneaking, like he's going to be a guy that's like thought about as a 1, right? Or like maybe an early 2nd guy, like that momentum.
I think that late 1st, early 2nd would be there if he was fully healthy. But that's where he's extremely accurate with a deep ball. Like he's gotten better at it. And that's the thing. Like the more time he had in that offense, but again, that offense is so different from what the Titans have run, and that's where it's like until we know, like if it is Matt Nagy, like or if it's Bieniemy, or if it's Tim Kelly, I'm going to be really freaking disappointed because I'm team evolution.
Yeah, we need to change.
Good Lord, I knew Craig was coming in here.
You knew I was waiting for it eventually.
This is my green bean casserole take where Craig's coming in here. We're not doing Jimmy G. Let's just go ahead and get more of that. And especially too, like I'm content with keeping Tannehill for this year and even next because they could, I believe his contract is set up. They could restructure, I think, in some way if whatever. If they wanted to try and restructure, I'm sick of hearing that word restructure because it's like
Yeah.
not everybody understands. It's like restructure Lawan. Like you can't
Yeah.
restructure a guy who doesn't have any years left. But
One last thing, I would like to see
yeah,
Rand. There's got to be another nerd in that locker room somewhere on the staff of San Francisco. I just want him to pick out one of those guys and be like, "Hey, come be our OC. I want a Mike McDaniel like guy. Bring him on over. Can we do that? Can we just like grab one of those nerds out of the locker room and be like, hey, come to Tennessee. Nashville's great. No income tax. We got the whole thing.
Pedal taverns, everything you want.
Yeah.
But my thought is, if that would have happened, I think we would have heard about it now. And I really think they're looking at Matt Nagy and just saying, "Let's go." Because I would much rather have Nagy versus Bieniemy. And the reason being is Eric Bieniemy feels they're saying it's more of a lateral move, even though he's not calling plays because Andy Reid's been calling plays. The intrigue there for me is his exposure to good play calling, seeing the practices, seeing the scheming, seeing how do you call your first how many series they plan ahead kind of thing, but Nagy's seeing it as well. And I don't know, man. Bieniemy seems like he's been interviewed for a ton of head coaching jobs, and he still hasn't been picked. I don't know if it's an ego thing. I don't want to put more ego next to Mike Vrabel and think it's going to be a good combination. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And Nagy feels like the guy where it's like he's been a head coach. He didn't do great. He's working his way back up. Prove it.
Yeah. You don't want another Arthur Smith type thing, though. Like, that's one part I think some fans don't like. But I'm with you. There's something about the Bieniemy thing. And I know it's Andy Reid ahead of you. I get that. I understand that. But it feels like if you've not been given the opportunity to call plays and you've had all those pass ups or you've passed up, something feels a little off. And I need you to be in this scenario. Selfishly, I want you to be a dog that goes out there and gets it. You want to be the one always calling plays. You kind of command a little bit different. I'm sure Bieniemy has done some good things, but it just feels like I kind of want the guy with a little bit more control because I think there needs to be a big shift. I don't need a Todd Downing who just kind of feels like they gave him a chance. Like, I don't want to just kind of like give Bieniemy a chance to call plays. And he may be the right guy. Like, he really may. I don't know him well enough, but just from an outsider's fun podcast perspective, I think I'd rather have like a Nagy guy that's like, I really need something to prove right now.
There's a little bit more chip on that shoulder to be out there versus saying, hey, look, me and Mahomes just did all this stuff for the last 5 years he's been there. And it's like, cool, man. Appreciate it.
We don't have Travis or Patrick in that back.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, and that's the same thing, the same stigma about Alabama players. They're surrounded by so much talent. Like, how good is Bieniemy or even Nagy? Because they've been looking at Mahomes. We've been seeing Mahomes having success, and I don't think he's the standard bar. He's the exception, not the rule. Like, what are we talking about? Like, but at the same time, if it's a scheme thing, if it's familiarity, if there's Mike Vrabel has pulled a ton of players and former coaches based on relationships. Mm-hmm. And again, like you said, Rand Carthon could probably do the same thing with someone from San Francisco. But the lack of like news or pulse or activity, I'm like, all right, what are we doing?
Yep.
I'd love to have somebody this week that they can go out there planning with the offense in mind because it's in dire need. But any last thoughts with the Titans, Chase, before we go full NFL?
No, we got 50 minutes of Titans on Super Bowl week.
I know, good Lord. I'm cool to stick around if you want to stick around, but
no, it's I'll say this. All right, just quick, yes or no, turf or no turf?
The studies are right there at 50-50 line or whatnot saying, turf over grass. I mean, if they feel like it gives them the better benefit to overcome injuries, I'm all for it,
Yeah, studies are very iffy. Like, I mean, the grass was so bad at Nissan that it's way worse than the turf idea, but Craig went on a whole spiel like you can't have real grass, I guess, in the new stadium either. So go ahead, get turf.
Get him
All the
acclimated.
get him acclimated. Might as well.
Yeah.
Might as well.
Andre Beeman coming in, calling out. I think he might have been looking at some Craig's comments. Just tank. Jimmy G is injury prone, and he won't win you a Super Bowl either. How much? I guess here's the last question for me with the Titans and tanking, or not tanking, but like, can they stop a rebuild right now? Whether it's soft or a full on rebuild, do you think they can stop it?
No, it'll be. I mean, it's going to be soft. Like it just depends on how soft. We're talking like Pillsbury Doughboy. Are we talking,
Yeah.
like they're just not good enough. Like there's too many injuries, too many guys you're gonna have to cut. Like, I mean, I know you don't love Bud, but like when Bud's out there, like he at least gets pressures and he makes an impact. You can look at some of the numbers. Like he's not giving you the cool sick stats, but like you can see how effective the defense is. Just another good body to have.
But for 20,
but not for the money. I'm just saying,
I know you're not saying that, and I'm just saying.
Oh God, he is out of here. We have all since day one been like, whoa, that's a lot of money for a guy that was like third best in that line at that point.
Yeah, gosh, Craig brings up these points. He says once again the door was shut when they lost the Bengals in the playoff in the divisional round. But that also shows you the margin of error at that round of the playoffs. Like you're right. I mean, like you're razor thin. You're not going to see a 30-point comeback with the Jags against the wild card round. Like that's when you see those cool things like the Ravens, win on the road, the Patriots, that was the second round of the playoffs or whatnot. But like, I don't know, man. Even Burrow this last weekend, or whatever it was, the freaking Osai Chiefs game where he lost at the very last minute. Like that team has some issues. 4 sacks in the first 9 drop back. Like that's a problem. But they were good enough to overcome that stuff. The Titans couldn't overcome that kind of stuff.
No, but it also goes to show you like that's the biggest part of all this is the Titans can stay in stuff like this because they have maybe top 3 coach in the NFL and maybe the best at doing good with a lot of pretty shitty stuff going on, like with all the injuries. Again, number one most injured team.
Deals, yeah.
The deals, the losing your first round picks, it feels like, I mean, between Farley and what's the offensive lineman's name?
Isaiah Wilson.
Dylan
Radins.
Wilson. Yeah, I was trying to think out Wilson's first name. Yeah, then Radins was like another one. It's like, dude, I mean, it's a process that goes back. All this happens. All this weird faith that Titans fans have right now is because you have Mike Vrabel in that room. I don't know how good this team would be with some like Vic Fangio as your head coach. Like, who knows? Like, you're probably you're nowhere near as good. You don't have hope.
It'd be a massive step back.
Yeah, Vic's going to be a great defensive coordinator. Just got hired down in Miami. Like, he's going to be a sick coordinator. That's what he's good at. Yeah. Don't know if he wants to be your head coach, but I'm just saying, like, Vrabel is.
How good can he be with good talent?
Exactly. And I want to see it. I want to see it. I want to see. I want to see it. I want to see with a fast version with a good OC. And we saw it with Arthur Smith. You're on the cusp.
And it makes me want to like move to this optimistic side of like, yes, Vrabel's awesome. And anyone that says he's a bad head coach is out of their gourd. But it's like Rand Carthon could take this thing, 2 ways. I think 2 ways look like this. You're going to either get substantially or significantly better because the gap of like this injured team that we remember. Sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, Harold Landry's on this team.
Yeah.
We haven't seen him in like a year, it feels like. But all that to say, I mean, we're not as bad as you think because guys like Mario Edwards, guys like who was it, DeMarcus Walker showing up, and Jeff Simmons and Danique Watch, like there are pieces there. They got to fill some holes and they got to fix the offensive line. I don't care who plays quarterback, but all that to say, if Rand Carthon just drops some massive move, as soon as free agency opens up. Because, dude, I'm like, do I like this part of the season better than the actual game, like, in season, regular season? Because the news, the stuff happening, these deals, the draft, free agency, all the money side of it, and then we'll see what happens. But yeah, man, I feel optimistic with Rain Carthon. I know the inactivities probably make us a little crazy out here. Like, what are we doing? What are we waiting for? But sometimes you got to sit on your hands and let the pieces fall where they may.
Yeah. Super Bowl. I know you're not a huge.
Take us there. No, I want to talk about it.
Okay. This one feels like the two best teams got there to me. It is going to show again, like the coaching and bringing up a quarterback versus like they're two perfect marriages. It feels like with coach and quarterback. And Hurts is amazing. I hope Mahomes is gassed up and as healed as you can be. You could tell at times like him trying to take off a little bit. He was battling on that ankle.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really am glad we actually got the two best. Like I like the Bengals a lot. I love Joe Burrow. I love Jamar. I love like the whole crew. But I'm like, that's another one that they could get. They're going to get crushed by that front of Philly.
Mm-hmm.
I was very disappointed in that game too. I really wanted San Fran, and I can't believe like you can look at it and you're like, God, if Brock Purdy would have stayed in the game, what could have been?
Yeah.
It's like, dang it. But I don't know. This one's very intriguing. 2.5 points is the line. Philly favored. I'm very, very down the middle. Super lame loser take right there, but I'm very split on this game. I don't know about you.
I think the Eagles are going to destroy the Chiefs. I will go on record to say that just simply because Hassan Reddick, Ndamukong Suh is out there eating people alive, and that pressure. Obviously Brock Purdy's injury, the actual tear of a ligament in his arm, but let us not forget he had to come back in the game because they literally knocked out, what was it, Josh?
Whomever
it was.
Freeman.
Yeah.
Who was that? Yeah.
Thompson or something. I don't know. I can remember. But all that to say, that pressure on the defense is awesome. And if the offense, because you got to think like the Chiefs do have Mahomes, right? He's not he's not a one-trick pony, but he is the engine that makes the thing go. The Philly Eagles are just looking like a well-cogged machine because, again, AJ, obviously Devonta Smith, like
Miles Sanders looked great.
Yeah, they scored two rushing touchdowns pretty quickly and pretty easily there at first in that game. I'm like, and they can run the ball, but that's the perfect example of that stable of running backs that can just keep the pressure on, that opens up the passing game, and you just keep the foot on the gas. That's speed. That kills.
Yeah, and their offense really, really thrives off their defense too, because their offense didn't look good despite the penalties from San Fran at times. Like you're like, man, if it wasn't for those penalties early, but that damn defense on Philly is so good that even when the offense isn't clicking on all cylinders, it gives them time to build up that engine. When that engine's rolling, when you watch Hurts make those moves and you get pressure on him and he shakes off your guy and then he's gone for 18 yards. And then you're starting to creep up a little bit with your linebackers and he hits you with a Devontae or an AJ touchdown. You're like, God bless, dude. Like when it looks right, it is so right. And if Mahomes isn't 100% healthy, I'm with you. If I was going to like rank what I could see the outcome being, I would say a close Chiefs win, number one. It's kind of what I'm leaning towards. There's just something, I don't know what it is. There's something about it. Number two would be like a blowout for a Philly win. Like that's kind of how I look at it. Like I think Philly dominates again. They're just so talented. They're just such a good ball club. I know Chris Long, I think, said this. He's like, we look at it as like, oh, they're kind of skating by. But what if Philly's just so good right now? They're beating the shit out of teams.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that could be a possibility of, wow, Philly's really good.
Yeah.
and they've just dominated. Yeah, they've had injuries. They took out Brock Purdy. Like, I mean, there's a lot of facets to it of if this Philly team clicks on all cylinders, it's the best overall top tier. But they're still Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, and I think like Craig comments here, if Mahomes wins, he builds his legend. If Philly wins, right? Some Philly win-win, I guess. I like the game. I like the Eagles in this game. Mahomes, I'll be able to move against that D line. Also, Smith and Brown against the secondary. My question for everybody watching and for Chase, I feel like Philly is this triple-headed monster. Like it's either Jalen's running all over the field. AJ's catching these pylon, barely getting his feet in, perfectly placed ball catches, and then Smith is just out there just scorching people. But do you think the Philadelphia Eagles would have made the Super Bowl if they did not have AJ Brown? Since we're going to play it and we're going to expose the nerve and we're going to touch it a little bit, see how it feels.
I don't think so. I really don't. I mean, like if we're trying, if you're gonna be like, well, if they would have had, DeAndre Hopkins or to replace him, it's like, no, if you're just like, give me some middle of the road, like, dude, I'll say this: if they had Robert Woods, they're not making the Super Bowl. They're losing a couple games. Like AJ had some monster games. If they had Robert Woods now instead of AJ Brown, they're not making a Super Bowl. I don't think. I think they might have lost. I don't know. Yeah, I guess they would have. He really made them a 1 seed. He put them over the top.
It's a hard one because you're saying no. Craig's saying no. He broke the Eagles' single season receiving record this year. I don't know, man. It's a difficult question. I saw it this week, and I'm like you're saying a second ago, how good is this Eagles team? Are they really beating the shit out of these good teams? Because here, I get it. The whole Brock Purdy injury, they literally could not throw the ball, right? They could not do anything but hand it off to McCaffrey and hope for the best. Maybe throw the swing to Deebo. But at the end of the day, like it seems like Jalen Hurts MVP material. And I think this game, like you have the two head-to-head MVP players, right? Like Mahomes is up there. He's slain the Giants. He's slain the Bills. He's slain the Trevors. He's slain the Burrow. But now I think he has his toughest task. And I tend to think they could have made it without AJ Brown. Like those receiving yards would have gone somewhere because Jalen Hurts is legit. He's real. I think the offensive line around him, Mailata, Lane Johnson, Dickerson, Kelsey, like it is like we don't understand at this level of the crowd, the cavern down here for the Titans. That offensive line, we don't know what it even smells or looks like to have a team like that, right? I mean, it's been a long time for us, but I think this team, like you were just saying, I think they're that good because just as good as the offensive players are, the roster is, that defensive front, I mean, swarming. I mean, again, we're talking San Francisco here.
Yeah.
They stopped Bosa. They limited him as much as they could, and they went off. But it's one of those things that, for me, that's a tough question. That's a flip of the coin. But if I'm betting, I probably would say, yeah, they could have made it because Jalen Hurts is the MVP of the NFL.
Yeah. I'll say this too. I think this goes to show, and next week, everybody kind of get ready to do we're going to do like a power ranking of position group for the Titans, but also we're going to do like position groups needed to win a Super Bowl. And this week will show a lot.
Hold on. It's seriously always that way, Chase. Like when the Giants beat the Patriots and this, 17-0 season they had, what stopped him was that nasty defensive front and the defensive pass rush. Like that started to change the game of what it is. But yeah, next week we're going to talk about which positions you have to have at elite top tier. Because Nick Bosa, dude, you don't find those guys on the street, man. And that's why he's up for defensive MVP. And he's a freak. Yep. You got to have the good one there. So yeah, I just wanted to make your
also,
point. So, yeah.
yeah. And then also the offensive line, like Hurts was so like Hurts has always had this spark of athleticism, power, like very graceful, just an unbelievable athlete. But there's always been some moments, like going back to Bama, going back to Oklahoma, like he just wasn't quite top tier.
Mm-hmm.
But this goes to show you whenever you and he did not play great early in that first half against San Fran. He was a little frazzled. He was running around. He was doing his thing. But he wasn't playing well. Like he was a little jumpy. He's a little skittish. It's nerves in an NFC playoff game, and you're going against San Francisco. I get that. It's the two best defenses playing each other. But anyways, the point is when your offensive line, your defensive line are as good as these two, as the Eagles is, you have a chance to make a pretty good quarterback look like an MVP ASAP.
Yep.
ASAP. And Hurts also made that jump. Like there are also times throughout the season you're like, oh, he looks a lot different.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a swag to him. He's got a little oomph about it. Now, he's he had a jumpy moment in one playoff game, but last year he made huge strides compared to his last playoff game against Tampa Bay. And that the defensive front is going to give them a chance, especially if Mahomes is not 100%. This is a high ankle sprain. He made a 5-week injury happen in less than 6 days.
Yeah,
or 8 days, whatever it was.
Did not seem natural. Obviously, we just saw Ryan Tannehill have the same thing, and obviously these bodies did not respond the same way. I'm intrigued by the Super Bowl for several things, right? Football, betting,
football.
It's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
But I also come for the commercials. And I'm excited about those. I will be watching the game. And as far as the game, I hope for a competitive game. If I'm picking a team, I want the Eagles to stomp the dog shit out of the Chiefs because that's how we do it around here. Like, that's what we think about.
Also, how good would those videos be from Philly?
Oh my god,
yeah, dude.
And I'm also of the fan. Like, and here's the thing, I want to talk to you about this too. With the Chiefs, with the Bengals games, I'm sorry. Some NFL officiating, man. I don't want to say they threw the game, they had a huge outcome. But the do-overs, you ever seen a do-over in the NFL before this last weekend, Chase? Like a do-over. They said do-over.
Never, dude. Like they had no clue. They had no clue what they were doing out there.
It didn't make sense from a sense. I think there was one play too that they were saying there was holding on the Mahomes, late flag from Osei or Sai or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Feel terrible for that guy.
Oh.
But yeah, I mean, we've said it all year. NFL officiating has been absolute trash. I'm ready for some robots. I'm ready for some drone robots. I mean, whatever Tesla has to cook up, I'm for it because, it's also one of those weird things too, where Uberfact put out recently, just like the WWE, that the NFL falls under the category of sports entertainment. Therefore, the outcomes can be pre-organized, premeditated, and kind of planned. Chase, I want to ask you this, dude, because a lot of folks were out here saying this was rigged and they want the Chiefs to go. They want Mahomes. They don't want the Bengals. Little old city like Cincinnati doesn't sell as much as Mahomes and Kansas City. Do you believe in any type of tinfoil, conspiracy that the NFL is rigged or the NBA? Because I've heard some alleged, some interesting things there as well.
Yeah, because Arian Foster was the one that was like, yeah, it's scripted. That's dude thought he could beat up a wolf. Like, yeah, I don't take a whole lot of stock in Arian Foster's takes sometimes.
What kind of wolf we talking about, though? I mean, I'm just kidding.
He's a big wolf. Big wolf.
Dire wolf.
Yeah, dire wolf. Pat McAfee made a good point this week. He said, you know what? I don't know if it's rigged. But I'll say this. I think because these guys aren't full-time refs, they can be a little skewed from the outside world. Some old white guy is just out there trying to hang out, be cool with his buddies. Like, I really like that Patrick Mahomes. He's a good guy. I got to meet him. I like the Chiefs. They deserve the win. And then you kind of like create a subconscious enemy in your own mind against the Bengals, and that's something I could possibly see. I don't think it's rigged. I think there's too many people you'd have to keep quiet. And maybe Goodell's the greatest mob boss of all time. And that's why he makes so much money. Because like all these owners are pissed about him making all this money. They can't really do anything about it. And they're mad about it. So that also is like, you're telling me one of those arrogant owners isn't going to be like, well,
yeah,
it's rigged.
Well,
We'd
I
all
mean,
just be in shambles.
if it cranks out the Benjamins for them, are they going to spoil the fun?
Yeah, true. Is that the blackmail that the Commanders?
Yeah, yes. Dan Snyder.
Is that what Dan has? Is that the juice? Dan's like, I could let this all go, and you're like,
but
eh.
I don't think it's rigged. Now, there's some times where it's ridiculously predictable.
Oh yeah.
Of like, this is going to end on a field goal. They're going to hit it, and it's all that kind of stuff. But I mean, it's at a point right now where I do think, honestly, that the officiating is taking away from the product of the game. I think, what was it, that Tom Brady sack that Grady Jarrett had, and literally, like, his mom probably was like, thank you for tackling my son that way, because it was probably the most gentle outcome that he could have had. But I will say this, and what Matt Ryan, I saw so many things on Twitter this week. So-and-so's reaction when they saw the script for this season, and it was like, Michael Vick's dog when he saw the allegations of the script for 2008 for whatever year it was. But I saw a ton of those. But I mean, I'm at a point now where obviously I'm not the type of like, I'm gonna boycott the league. I'll always be around here.
I'm gonna watch every week. I got fantasy to play, dog. I got gambling to do.
We got some money to do. We got some bad habits to support. But no,
I can't be a degenerate without the NFL.
I do want to mention, obviously, Tom Brady announcing he's retiring. Sean Payton is going to the Broncos. A little bit beyond our hour at this point. We can probably dip into those a little bit more. I want to see if Tom Brady stays true to his word. People are like, hey, give it a week, give it 6 weeks, and we'll see where we're at. Because someone's going to be calling him saying, hey, man, they can trade you to this team. We could be sitting here lighting it up. And you got to think, the 49ers with that roster and a 46, 47-year-old quarterback in the NFC.
Dang.
You can paint some nice pictures when George Kittle's catching over think about George Kittle, and think if they brought Gronkowski in there for pennies on the dollar with Brady. I mean,
dog, he's got field goals to kick this next weekend.
Yeah.
The $10 million field goal. But dude, I mean, if you're Brady, you're looking at Brandon Ayuk, you're looking at Juwan Jennings, you're looking at who's their other wide receiver? Debo. You're looking at Elijah Mitchell, Christian McCaffrey, Trent Williams is back there. Your whole offensive line's doing great. You got to think he's at least going to think about it.
I'm sure. I mean,
but I think he's back in on the family train. Sounds like he is pretty hardcore. I think there's some life things that he's got to get right now.
So, do you think him and Giselle have a chance? I'm just kidding. I sit here and do wonder. It's like he seemed, just read into body language here.
Yeah,
sitting on the beach, pondering a lot. He was emotional towards the end. Craig Story coming in saying he thinks it's for real this time. I mean, he had some legit sentiment that, again, unless he is been taking some acting classes, TB12 came off pretty authentic in saying, hey, it's for good this time.
It seemed like it, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Here's a good one. Here's a little tinfoil hat from Chase Green. So is Russell Wilson Let's Ride scripted? I think yes. And here's why. Russell Wilson was brought into the Broncos organization this year, and they knew Sean Payton needed one more year, and they knew Sean Payton needed a redemption story. So they got Russell. They said, you need to suck this year. And Sean Payton needs to get some intrigue. He needs to be the fire needs to be stuck. I can change Russell. I can do that. And Hackett was a hatch job.
He was a Hackett, yeah.
Yeah. And that was the Broncos' way of getting Sean Payton, and he's going to turn Russell Wilson around. And the AFC West is going to be stacked again next year. Kellen Moore is now with the Chargers. Sean Payton is now with the Broncos. And Aaron Rodgers is going to the Raiders.
Time is a flat circle because this time last year, and this is supporting your tinfoil chase on the case from Craig here. As long, and just to bring the original question back up, so was the Russell Wilson Let's Ride scripted? As long as it keeps the NFL in the forefront of the conversation on social media, on the highlight reels, on the hey, check this out, here's what happened in the NFL this week. That's all they care about.
Yeah,
I genuinely believe that. See, this is what I love about it. I don't think they're planning out things to the degree that we're thinking of, like we're saying lines on the sideline and, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But when big things happen and it's like this trade, because, some like the whole Elway Marino documentary we talked about for 30 for 30 or Al Wilson's 30 for 32. There was there's even conversations even recently, I think, of trades being held up or whatever it was way back when. I forget his name, Paul Tagliabue. Doing stuff way back when with the Raiders because they hated the Raiders. They hated Al Davis. Keeping good quarterbacks away from him so his team sucks. That stuff happens.
Oh, yeah.
Who was it? Chris Paul or someone got blocked in the NBA a few years back, right?
Yep.
Tell me it doesn't happen, Chase. Tell me it doesn't happen.
Oh, I really think it happens at times in the NBA because, I think it's small things that they know they can get away with for, a long-term effect. Dude, if I'll even go as far as, somebody like Devin Booker. If Devin Booker goes to the hole and draws just the tiniest bit of contact towards the end of the game, it doesn't have to be, the last-minute shot, last-second shot.
Mm-hmm.
It could be, 2:30 left in the game, but it's pretty tense. Devin Booker getting that call, bro. Joel Embiid's getting that call. Joker's getting that call.
But think about
if Bones Highland goes in, he ain't getting that call.
But even with the NFL, the big controversial conversation of the last few weeks was the tuck rule forward motion fumble, from Josh Dobbs, from obviously Josh Allen's, several different people are just, but it makes me, it's weird to sit here and think these guys have these pieces in their ear with these microphones. We have no idea who's chiming in saying what from New York. Hey, on this call, we got to have Patrick go again, do-over. They said the word do-over. That's a word that we use when we don't have the official rules. We just hey, let's just do it over again. I'm sorry, guys. What?
That's us in a pickup game.
It is. It's street ball. It is backyard. It is. What are we doing? But that's what makes me sit here and wonder, right? It's just the thought of But again, even if I knew, I'd still watch it, and I would still let it affect my life the way that it does.
I would, yeah. I mean, I watched wrestling as a kid forever. I watch Yellowstone. I watch all the scripted crap. I might as well just keep watching it. I love it. I'd still like it. But I want to know what happened. I mean, I kind of still look at it as it's a weekly show, anyways. Just a lot of them.
But it's almost like right now. And again, I feel we're pretty invested in our stuff here. We keep up with our teams, everything that's happening going on. I'm waiting for the announcement of this offensive coordinator. Yeah, for so many reasons. Because I feel like so many other people out here making content about football teams or whatever. It's just please God, let us get to the next thing. I'm out here fighting these Twitter streets over Derrick Henry, and it's February 2nd. Yeah. Please, God, give us some Titans news because we need something bad.
Yeah, we hadn't even seen a summer workout from Derrick yet,
But we have actually. There's been photos of his.
I've seen. I did see the photo. That's true. Yeah,
nuts.
He's jacked.
But here's one to close us out. I'm trying to think of a prediction headline kind of thing, who do you think's gonna be MVP in the Super Bowl? Or is it just a quarterback award now?
Kittle gets his bits. MVP.
Who?
I heard that one the other day. Somebody said George Kittle was going to win the MVP, and I was like, "No, yeah." But anyways, this was after the game. No, this one. Who was that? I saw a good one. There's a couple like fun long shot ones that I would like. Like Scott, the running back for Philly, if like he gets a multi-touchdown game. And then I really do feel like I'll stay on the tight end train. I really think it might be Kelsey. Kelsey's gonna have to dominate like again, but I don't know if Philly's defense is so good. I guess, like I said, I guess my slight 50.2% is going with the Chiefs, and I think Kelsey's gonna have to win it.
I want to see what this game. Let me pull up the score here because where are we at? Super Bowl, man. I can't figure this thing out. I know we got Craig Story in the comments saying down here that AJ Brown's gonna be NFL or excuse me, Super Bowl MVP.
Oh my gosh, the state of Tennessee would lose it.
You know it's coming.
I didn't even think about that one.
You know, honest, dude.
That's actually that I would put money on that just because it just seems right. I'm gonna be honest, it's been a pretty crummy week. I think that would just add to it to roll over for next week.
It'll be bad. He's saying 8 catches, 167 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Just cooking.
Oh, we're gonna come back to this audio, I know for sure, and just be like, Craig was right.
And his like, his first tweet would be like at Tennessee, be like, y'all should never traded me. Y'all should never traded me.
You hear what he said last week about how he's so thankful that Howie pulled the trigger, and my goodness, that's unfortunate. That we're still having to talk about AJ Brown, but here we are, man.
Here we are, man.
Well, any last thoughts as I know we went kind of way over here, but 50 minutes about the Titans on Super Bowl week. What are we doing?
I don't know. That's what we do. I was trying to see like where's the MVP odds. I'm on DraftKings.
Ooh, you gonna place a little bet right now?
I can't, North Carolina. Unfortunately.
You can't? Oh, right. Well,
yeah, dude. I'm out of state, brother.
I done forgot it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure I'll find it here lately. I don't know if they have them yet. But yeah, I would I'd like to see. I bet AJ's are I think it's gotta be +7, something like that. I'm just kind of ballparking. If anyone wants to look that up, let me know. But yeah, great stuff. Yeah, we know it's next week, but we're just talking. This is like this next 2 weeks are just kind of one. Yeah.
Well,
feels like
here's some Super Bowl MVP odds, right?
Okay.
According to your guy Travis Kelce,
yep,
on FanDuel is +1,300 for MVP.
Okay,
if you're trying to get rich, jump on your boy Chase's play and going for Kelce. Now,
yeah, I want to be swinging,
Right. Well, the thing is, I mean, you got to think receiver or quarterback. I don't know if a tight end has ever won the NFL Super Bowl or MVP.
I don't think so. I think that's why the guy was like, well, nobody's ever won, no tight ends ever won. So,
but you got to think they're pushing the Kelce brothers romantic story.
Sure are.
Tinfoil hats on, baby. Don't take them off. Don't take them off. But the favorites right now for Jalen Hurts, he's +125. Patrick Mahomes is at +120.
Hey.
So let's see here. AJ Brown's odds, I think his best odds are +1,000. So yeah, I mean it's quarterback. I'm surprised to see that Kelce's up there. He's +850 on what side is that? I can't even see what side it is. One of them, Caesars. Excuse me.
So +1,300 on FanDuel.
Yes, on FanDuel.
Okay.
Get your money right.
Okay.
And, MGM's got him at 11 hundies. And there's always going to be that one dude, Miles Sanders, down here at plus 3,000. Hey, I know we're
Wow.
random,
Miles that far down.
but there, dude, you just know someone down there's going to hit somebody.
Yeah, I think.
What if Hassan Haskins gets it at plus 30, plus 5,000 on Caesars?
Yeah.
Chris
Wow.
Jones could, for all we know, man. All right, dude.
All right. We got to get out of here. Yeah.
Let me get out of here, bro. And I appreciate you joining. Everyone that's watching, chatting with us, really appreciate the interaction. It's always fun. Obviously, if you're listening to after or you're watching after, because we're going to be on Spotify with our video in the YouTube, make sure to subscribe, 5-star rating, the whole thing. You can find me on Twitter, find Chase on Twitter, find all that by going to the description in this podcast or on YouTube, the description there, and find our link tree. And you find everything you need. Go to our Substack. We're going to be cranking out some content there, some thoughts that we might talk about on the podcast, and we'll keep it going. But Chase, looking good. We'll catch up, Bohemian.
Yeah, buddy. Y'all have a good weekend now.
Yes, sir. Y'all have a good one, and always tight.